The space around the Andorian system was quiet and peaceful. Merchant ships moved slowly between the planets, carrying goods and passengers. The local patrol vessels drifted lazily near the jump points, their crews half asleep during another boring shift. Nothing exciting ever happened in this part of the galaxy. Then the fabric of space itself seemed to tear open. A massive shape emerged from the swirling energy of hyperspace. It was huge beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. The ship stretched nearly 10 kilometers from front to back, its dark hull gleaming under the light of the distant stars. Strange symbols covered its sides, and weapon ports dotted its surface like the eyes of some ancient beast. On the bridge of the merchant vessel Star Dancer, Captain Zekthar dropped his cup of hot tea. The blue liquid splashed across his control panel as he stared at the view screen in shock. His forearms trembled as he reached for the emergency communication button. "This is Star Dancer to Andorian Control," he whispered into his microphone. "We have a situation. A very big situation." The human warship, USS Leviathan, hung in space like a sleeping giant. Its arrival had sent shockwaves through the subspace communication networks. Within minutes, every government, every military base, and every news station in 3 sectors knew about it. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Leviathan, his hands clasped behind his back. He was a tall man with gray hair and steady blue eyes. He had fought in many battles, but this was different. This was not about fighting. This was about making a statement. "Captain Kane, what's our status?" he asked. Captain Lisa Kane checked her instruments. She was younger than Morrison, with short brown hair and quick green eyes. "All systems are running perfectly, sir. We're receiving over 200 communication requests from various alien vessels and stations." "Any of them hostile?" Morrison asked. "Not yet, sir, but they're scared." "Really scared?" Morrison nodded. He had expected this reaction. Humanity had been quiet for too long. The other species in the galaxy thought humans were weak, that they could be ignored or pushed around. The Leviathan was here to change that thinking. Lieutenant Commander Ryan. Bell sat at the communication station, his fingers dancing over the controls. "Sir, we're getting priority messages from the Galactic Council. They want to know our intentions." "Tell them we're here on a peaceful mission," Morrison replied. "We're exploring new possibilities for cooperation between our species." Ryan's eyebrows rose. "Sir, they might not believe that." "Not with a ship this size." Morrison smiled. "That's the point, Lieutenant Commander. Sometimes you need to speak loudly to be heard." Across the system, panic was spreading like wildfire. On the Zephyrian flagship Stellar Wind, Commander Vextar studied the human vessel through his long-range sensors. His blue skin had turned pale, and his tentacles writhed nervously around his head. "Report," he ordered his science officer. "The ship is massive, Commander. Our sensors can barely get a complete reading. The hull appears to be made of some kind of unknown metal. The energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases." Vextar's main eyes narrowed while his smaller ones scanned the data. "Weapons? We count at least 300 weapon ports, sir. But we don't know what kind of weapons they are. The energy patterns are completely foreign to us." The Zephyrian commander felt a chill run down his spine. His people had been the dominant military force in this sector for over 1,000 years. They had never encountered anything they couldn't understand or defeat. Until now, on the bridge of the Leviathan, Dr. Peter Hayes was examining the alien vessels through the ships. Advanced sensors. He was a thin man with thick glasses and a love for learning about other species. "Admiral, we have 43 different ship types out there. I count vessels from at least 12 different species. Are they forming up for an attack?" Morrison asked. "Not yet, sir, but they're definitely positioning themselves. The Thraxian heavy cruisers are moving to flank us, and the Centauri destroyers are spreading out in a defensive formation. Captain Kane looked up from her station. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council station. They're demanding that we identify ourselves and state our business. Morrison straightened his uniform. Put them through. The main view screen flickered to life, showing the council chamber on Omega Prime Station. Dozens of alien representatives sat in a semicircle, their faces showing fear, anger, and confusion. The council leader, a tall being with silver skin and no visible eyes, spoke first. Unknown vessel, you have entered restricted space without authorization. Identify yourself immediately. Morrison stepped forward. This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the United Earth Federation vessel USS Leviathan. We come in peace, seeking dialogue with the Galactic Council. A murmur ran through the chamber. The Thraxian delegate, a creature that looked like a cross between a lizard and an insect, clicked his mandibles angrily. You dare enter our space with a warship of this size and speak of peace? This is an act of aggression. With respect, Morrison replied calmly, we have not fired on anyone. We have not threatened anyone. We are simply here to talk. The council leader's skin shifted from silver to a worried shade of yellow. Your ship is enormous. Our sensors indicate it carries enough firepower to destroy entire fleets. How can you call this peaceful? Morrison smiled. Because we choose to be peaceful. The size of our ship and the power of our weapons are not important. What matters is how we use them. Back on the Leviathan's bridge, Chief Engineer Maria Santos was monitoring the ship's systems. She was a small woman with dark hair and quick hands. Admiral, we're getting some interesting readings. The alien ships are scanning us, but their sensors can't penetrate our hull. Good, Morrison said. Let them wonder what we're capable of. Communications Officer Danny Foster looked up from his station. Sir, we're picking up military communications from all over the sector. It looks like they're calling for reinforcements. Captain. Kane frowned. How many ships are we talking about? Hard to say, ma'am. But it looks like they're gathering everything they have. Morrison nodded. This was exactly what he had expected. The aliens were scared, and scared people made bad decisions. But that was part of the plan. Humanity needed to show strength before they could negotiate from a position of respect. The Leviathan continued to float in space, its massive bulk casting shadows on the smaller alien vessels. Inside the ship, over 5,000 crew members went about their duties, knowing that the eyes of the galaxy were upon them. This was the moment that would change everything. The moment when humanity announced to the galaxy that they were no longer the weak, isolated species that could be ignored. The USS Leviathan had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The alien ships continued to gather, their crews whispering prayers and checking their weapons. They had no idea what the humans were planning, but they knew that their peaceful lives had just become very complicated. Admiral Morrison stood on his bridge, watching the stars and waiting for the galaxy's next move. The emergency session of the Galactic Council began 3 hours after the human ship arrived. Representatives from 47 different species crowded into the great chamber on Omega Prime Station. The air was thick with tension and the smell of fear from dozens of different alien races. Ambassador Helen Carter walked into the chamber with calm confidence. She was a woman in her 50s with silver hair and sharp brown eyes. Behind her walked Lieutenant Commander Ryan Bell, carrying a briefcase full of diplomatic documents. The aliens stared at them as they took their seats at the center of the room. The council leader, Magistrate Corthell, called for order. His silver skin had turned a dark gray color, showing his stress. We are here to discuss the illegal entry of a human warship into our space. Ambassador Carter, explain your actions. Helen Carter stood up slowly. She looked around the room at all the frightened faces. "Thank you, Magistrate. The USS Leviathan is here on a mission of peace and exploration. We seek to open new channels of communication with our galactic neighbors." A loud buzz filled the room as the aliens talked among themselves. The Thraxian delegate, General Krexnor, stood up on his 6 legs. His insect-like face was angry. "You call a 10-kilometer warship a peace mission? This is an insult to our intelligence." "The size of our ship does not determine our intentions," Carter replied calmly. "We come in peace, but we also come prepared to defend ourselves if necessary." Dr. Peter Hayes, the human scientist, opened his tablet and projected images into the air. "If I may, the Leviathan is primarily a research vessel. Yes, it has weapons, but it also has the most advanced scientific laboratories in known space." The Zorlan representative, a tall being with purple skin and 4 arms, spoke up. "Your research vessel carries enough firepower to destroy our home worlds. How do you expect us to trust you?" Meanwhile, on the Leviathan, the situation was getting more serious. Chief Engineer Maria Santos watched her screens as more alien ships arrived in the system. "Admiral, we now have over 200 vessels surrounding us. They're from at least 20 different species." Admiral Morrison studied the tactical display. The alien ships had formed 3 defensive rings around his ship. The inner ring was made up of fast attack vessels. The middle ring had heavy cruisers, and the outer ring contained the big battleships. "What's their weapons status?" Captain Kane checked her instruments. "Most of them have powered up their shields, but their weapons are still offline. They're being careful not to make the first aggressive move." Communications Officer Danny Foster looked up from his station. "Sir, we're getting a priority message from the human destroyer USS Ranger. Captain Susan Brooks is requesting permission to join us." Morrison shook his head. "Tell Captain Brooks to maintain her position at the jump point. We don't want to escalate this situation." "Sir," Foster continued, "we're also receiving messages from human colonies across 3 sectors. They want to know if we need help." "Same answer," Morrison said. "We handle this alone." Back in the council chamber, the debate was getting heated. The Centauri Admiral, a being that looked like a giant octopus, waved his tentacles angrily. "This human ship appeared without warning. It violated our space. We demand it leave immediately." Ambassador Carter remained calm. "With respect, Admiral, we followed all proper hyperspace protocols. We entered empty space at the edge of your system. We have threatened no one." The vegan trade minister, a small creature with large eyes, spoke in a high voice. "But why such? A large ship? Why so many weapons? You could have sent a small diplomatic vessel." Lieutenant Commander Ryan Bell stood up. "Because small diplomatic vessels get ignored. We have been trying to contact the Galactic Council for 20 years. Our messages go unanswered. Our trade requests are rejected. The only way to get your attention was to make a statement." Murmurs filled the room. Many of the aliens looked uncomfortable because they knew this was true. Humanity had been treated as a minor species for decades. Dr. Hayes projected new images. "Our ship carries medical supplies that could help millions of people across the galaxy. We have new farming techniques that could end hunger on 12 different worlds. We have clean energy technology that could power entire star systems." The Altarian scientist, a being made of living crystal, chimed softly. "If this is true, why do you need so many weapons?" "Because the galaxy is not always a safe place," Carter answered. "Pirates attack our trade ships. Raiders destroy our colonies. We learned that we must be strong to survive." On the Leviathan, Captain Kane was coordinating with the ship's fighter squadrons. Captain Amy Torres was in the hangar bay, preparing her pilots for possible combat. She was a tough woman with short black hair and steel in her voice. Listen up, people, Torres told her pilots. We might be outnumbered, but we're not outgunned. Our fighters are faster and more advanced than anything they have. If shooting starts, we hit them hard and fast. Lieutenant Nick Stevens checked his fighter's weapon systems. He was young but experienced, with over 50 combat missions under his belt. Captain, what's our primary target list? Command ships first, Torres replied. Take out their leadership, and the rest will fall apart. Back on the bridge, Lieutenant Colonel Chris Taylor was analyzing the alien fleet. He was the ship's tactical officer, a quiet man who understood warfare better than anyone. Admiral, I've identified their flagship. It's that big Crete H battleship in the outer ring. Morrison nodded. What about their capabilities? Their weapons are powerful but old. Technology. Their ships are slower than ours. If it comes to a fight, we have significant advantages. In the council chamber, the debate continued. The Thraxian general was pounding his fist on his desk. We will not be intimidated by this human show of force. I call for immediate military action. Several other delegates agreed loudly. But the older, wiser members of the council looked worried. They knew that starting a war with an unknown enemy was dangerous. Ambassador Carter raised her hand for silence. Delegates, we did not come here to fight. We came here to join the galactic community as equals. We offer friendship, trade, and cooperation. Equals? The Ephurian commander who had arrived from his ship sneered. You are one ship against our hundreds. How does that make you equal? Carter smiled. Quality over quantity. Commander, one human ship arrived in your space, and your entire military is in panic. What does that tell you about human capabilities? The room fell silent. The aliens looked at each other with growing worry. They had been thinking of the humans as primitive, but this conversation was making them reconsider. Magistrate Cor Theo called for a recess. As the delegates left the chamber, they whispered among themselves in dozens of different languages. The message was the same in all of them. The humans were more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Ambassador Carter and her team returned to their quarters. Lieutenant Commander Bell looked tired. Ma'am, do you think they'll listen to reason? Carter looked out the window at the stars. Some will, but others will choose to fight. Fear makes people do stupid things. The galaxy was holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The ultimatum came at dawn, ship time. Admiral Thonekar of the Crete hegemony sent his message on all frequencies so everyone could hear it. His voice was deep and threatening, like rolling thunder. Human vessel, you have violated our space and threatened our peace. You have 1 hour to retreat beyond the galactic boundary or face the consequences. This is your only warning. On the bridge of the Leviathan, Admiral Morrison listened to the message without changing expression. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. How many ships are out there now? Morrison asked. Lieutenant Colonel Chris Taylor checked his sensors. 317 vessels, sir. They've formed a complete sphere around us. Every major species in this sector is represented. Captain Kane looked up from her station. Sir, they're powering up their weapons. Energy readings are climbing across the entire fleet. Morrison nodded slowly. He had hoped it wouldn't come to this, but he had prepared for it. All hands, battle stations. Raise shields and charge all weapon systems. The alarm klaxons echoed. Through the massive ship, 5,000 crew members moved to their combat positions with practiced efficiency. In the fighter bays, Captain Amy Torres and her pilots climbed into their ships. Remember, people, Torres said over the comm system, we're not trying to destroy them all. We're trying to make a point. Disable their engines and weapons, but leave their life support alone. Lieutenant Nick Stevens started his fighter's engines. "Captain, what if they don't give us a choice?" Torres was quiet for a moment. "Then we do what we have to do." The hour passed slowly. On alien bridges across the fleet, commanders watched their chronometers count down to 0. Many of them said prayers to their gods. Some wrote final messages to their families. All of them wondered if they would live to see another day. Admiral Thonekar sat in his command chair on the battleship, Crushing Fist. He was a large being with thick armor plating and 6 powerful arms. His people had been warriors for 10,000 years. They had never lost a battle. "Time," his weapons officer announced. Thonekar raised one massive fist. "All ships, open fire." The space around the Leviathan lit up like a star. Hundreds of plasma, cannons, laser batteries, and missile launchers fired at once. The combined firepower was enough to destroy a small moon. Energy beams in every color crossed the darkness. All aimed at the human ship Dot. The aliens watched their sensors, expecting to see the human vessel torn apart. Instead, something impossible happened. The Leviathan's shields absorbed every shot. The energy beams hit the blue barrier around the ship and simply disappeared. "Impossible," Thonekar roared. "Nothing can withstand that much firepower." On the Leviathan's bridge, Chief Engineer Maria Santos smiled at her readings. "Admiral, our adaptive shields are working perfectly. They're absorbing their energy and converting it to power our own systems." Morrison allowed himself a small smile. "Return fire. Surgical strikes only. Disable their weapons and engines." The Leviathan's response was swift and precise. Beams of pure energy lanced out from its weapon ports, but these were different from anything the galaxy had seen before. Instead of trying to destroy the alien ships, the human weapons targeted specific systems with incredible accuracy. The first Thraxian cruiser lost all its weapons in 3 seconds. The second lost its engines. A Centauri destroyer found its shields offline and its navigation systems dead. Across the alien fleet, ships were being systematically disabled without being destroyed. Captain Torres led her fighter squadron out of the Leviathan's hangar bays. The human fighters were sleek and fast, moving like silver arrows through space. They weaved between the alien ships, striking at weapon arrays and engine pods with pinpoint precision. Lieutenant Nick Stevens targeted a vegan heavy cruiser. His fighters' weapons were small compared to the big ship's guns, but they were incredibly accurate. He disabled the cruiser's main battery with 4 quick shots, then moved on to his next target. The alien pilots tried to intercept the human fighters, but they couldn't keep up. The human ships were faster, more maneuverable, and their pilots were better trained. Within minutes, dozens of alien fighters had been disabled or destroyed. Admiral Thonekar watched his fleet being torn apart and felt something he had never experienced before: fear. All ships, concentrate fire on their fighter bays. Stop those. Small ships. The alien fleet focused their remaining weapons on the Leviathan's hangar areas. But the human ship's point defense systems came online. Hundreds of small laser turrets tracked incoming fire and shot it down before it could reach the hull. Commander Vexstar on the Zephyrian flagship watched the battle with growing horror. His people prided themselves on their tactical skills, but nothing they did worked against the humans. Science Officer Analysis. Sir, their technology is beyond our understanding. Their shields seem to adapt to whatever we fire at them. Their weapons are more accurate than our best targeting computers. And their fighters, they're like nothing we've ever seen. The battle turned into a one-sided slaughter. The Leviathan wasn't just winning. It was demonstrating complete superiority over the combined might of the galactic fleet. Ship after ship found itself floating helpless in space, its weapons offline and its engines dead. But the most terrifying moment came when the Leviathan activated a system no one had ever imagined. The space around 3 squadrons of Kreeth destroyers began to bend and twist. Gravity itself became a weapon as the human ship created localized gravity wells. The alien ships were trapped, unable to move as invisible forces held them in place. Their crews screamed in terror as they realized they were completely helpless. The humans had turned the laws of physics into a weapon. Cease fire. Admiral Thonekar broadcast on all frequencies. All ships, cease fire. But it was too late. The human ship had already demonstrated its power. Of the 317 ships that had started the battle, over 200 were now floating helpless in space. The rest were retreating, as fast as their engines could carry them. Admiral Morrison stood on his bridge, looking at the tactical display. The alien fleet was broken, scattered, and defeated, but he took no joy in the victory. This had been necessary, but he wished it could have been avoided. All weapons, stand down, Morrison ordered. Medical teams, prepare for rescue operations. We have survivors out there who need help. Captain Kane looked surprised. Sir, we're going to help them? Morrison nodded. They attacked us out of fear, not hatred. Now we show them that humans can be merciful as well as strong. The battle was over, but its effects would be felt across the galaxy for generations to come. Every species now knew that humanity was not the weak, primitive race they had thought. The humans had arrived, and they had proven themselves the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. But what happened next would determine whether that power would be used for conquest or protection. The rescue operation began immediately. Human shuttles launched from the Leviathan's bays, their crews ready to help the survivors from the damaged alien ships. Colonel Jack Thompson led the Marine rescue teams, his voice calm and professional over the radio. Remember, people, these beings were our enemies 5 minutes ago, but now they're just people who need help. Treat them with respect and dignity. On the bridge of the crippled Kreeth H battleship, Admiral Thonekar sat in stunned silence. His mighty ship was powerless, floating in space like a broken toy. When the human shuttle docked with his vessel, he expected to be taken prisoner or executed. Instead, Lieutenant Kelly Adams stepped aboard with a medical team. She was a young woman with kind eyes and gentle hands. Admiral, we're here to help. Do you have injured crew members? Thonekar looked at her with confusion. His translator was working, but the words didn't make sense. You're helping us? But we attacked you. Kelly smiled. You're hurt, and we can help. That's all that matters right now. The alien admiral watched as human medics worked alongside his own doctors to save his wounded crew. They treated Kreeth, Thraxian, and Zephyrian wounded with the same care they would give their own people. It was something he had never seen before in all his years of war. Back on Omega Prime Station, the Galactic Council was in chaos. Representatives screamed at each other in dozens of languages. Some wanted to surrender immediately. Others called for more ships to continue the fight. A few wise ones suggested that maybe it was time to listen to what the humans had to say. Magistrate Corthel tried to maintain order, but his authority was crumbling. The old power structures that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years were falling apart. Everything had changed in the space of a few hours. Ambassador Helen Carter sat quietly in her seat, watching the panic around her. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Bell leaned over to whisper in her ear, "Ma'am, should we leave? They look like they might blame us for this mess." Carter shook her head. "No, this is exactly when we need to stay. They need to see that we're not going anywhere." The first breakthrough came from an unexpected source. The Zorlan Empress Kalainth, ruler of one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy, requested a private meeting with the human ambassador. Her empire controlled over 50 star systems and commanded fleets that numbered in the thousands. They met in a small conference room away from the chaos of the main chamber. The Empress was an elegant being with silver hair and wise eyes that seemed to hold the knowledge of ages. Her advisor, the ancient sage Mordon, sat beside her in respectful silence. "Ambassador Carter," the Empress began, "I have ruled for over 2 centuries. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have witnessed the birth and death of species. But I have never seen anything like what happened today." Carter nodded. "Your Majesty, we didn't want it to come to violence. But sometimes strength is the only language that certain people understand." "Indeed," the Empress agreed. "But what impressed me was not your strength. It was your mercy. You could have destroyed every ship in that fleet. Instead, you disabled them and then sent help." The sage Morgan spoke for the first time, his voice like rustling leaves. "The young human speaks truth, my Empress. This is not the behavior of conquerors. This is the behavior of protectors." Empress Kalanth leaned forward. "What do you want from us, Ambassador? What are humanity's true intentions?" Carter chose her words carefully. "We want to be part of the galactic community, not as subjects or servants, but as equals. We want to trade, to learn, to share our knowledge and our culture. We want peace." "And if that peace is threatened?" the Empress asked. "Then we will defend it," Carter replied simply. "We will protect those who cannot protect themselves." The Empress was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled. "I believe you. The Zorlan Empire wishes to form an alliance with humanity." News of the Zorlan alliance spread quickly through the galaxy. If the oldest and wisest civilization was willing to work with the humans, maybe it was time for others to reconsider their positions. On the Leviathan, Admiral Morrison was preparing for the most important speech of his life. The ship's communication. A ray was powerful enough to reach every corner of the galaxy. Every government, every military base, every news station would hear his words. Dr. Peter Hayes was setting up the transmission equipment. "Admiral, we're ready to broadcast. The entire galaxy is listening." Morrison straightened his uniform and looked into the camera. Behind him, the bridge of the Leviathan hummed with quiet efficiency. His crew worked at their stations, representing the best of humanity. "People of the galaxy," Morrison began, his voice strong and clear. "I am Admiral Jake Morrison of the United Earth Federation. Today, you witness the power of human technology and the skill of human warriors. But that is not the message I want you to remember." He paused, letting his words sink in across thousands of worlds. "The message I want you to remember is this: power without mercy is tyranny. Strength without compassion is cruelty. Humanity has both the ability and the will to enforce peace in this galaxy, but we would rather build it through cooperation and understanding." On alien worlds, millions of beings watched their screens as the human admiral continued. "The Leviathan is not alone. It is the first of a new class of human vessels that will patrol the galaxy. We will protect trade routes from pirates. We will defend colonies from raiders. We will ensure that the strong cannot prey upon the weak." Morrison's voice grew stronger. "We do not seek to rule you. We do not want your resources or your worlds. We want only to live in peace alongside you, as equals and as friends." He looked directly into the camera. "But make no mistake, we will not tolerate aggression against innocent people. We will not allow genocide or slavery. We will not permit the strong to crush the weak. This is our promise to the galaxy." The transmission ended, but its effects were immediate. On a dozen worlds, governments that had been planning attacks on human colonies quietly canceled their operations. Pirate fleets that had been raiding merchant ships suddenly found other things to do. 3 days later, Ambassador Carter stood before the Galactic Council again. But this time, the chamber was quiet and respectful. The representatives listened as she outlined humanity's proposals for peace, trade, and cooperation. The Thraxian delegate, The same one who had called for war just days before stood up slowly. Ambassador Carter, the Thraxian Republic wishes to apologize for our hostile actions. We request formal negotiations for a peace treaty. One by one, other representatives stood to make similar requests. The Centauri wanted to discuss trade agreements. The vegans offered to share their agricultural knowledge. Even the proud Kreeth asked for military cooperation against common threats. 6 months later, the human embassy on Omega Prime was the busiest diplomatic station in the galaxy. Ships from dozens of worlds came and went daily, carrying ambassadors, traders, and scientists eager to work with humanity. Ambassador Carter stood in her office, looking out at the stars. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Bell brought her the daily reports. Ma'am, we have 17 new trade agreements, 5 cultural exchange programs, and 3 requests for military assistance. Carter smiled. Ryan, do you remember what you asked me that first day? You wondered if they would listen to reason. Yes, ma'am. I was worried they wouldn't. They didn't listen to reason, Carter said. They listened to strength. But once they saw our strength, they were willing to hear our reason. Far away, the Leviathan continued its patrol of the galaxy. Other human ships had joined it, creating a fleet that ensured peace across the stars. Admiral Morrison stood on his bridge, watching the endless sea of space. The galaxy had indeed held its breath when the human Titan arrived. Now it was breathing freely again, knowing that humanity was there to protect it. The age of human guardianship had begun, and the universe was a safer place because of it.